Katie, we should be good now. Perfect. Thank you for allowing me to do that. So, welcome to the Big Red Barn Lodge. We're not going to be here for very long, but this is where I get to explain your devices a little bit further. So this is where we keep the horses for the carriage rides, for those of you that are not from here. So the history here is really short and simple, and I made it that way on purpose so we could talk more about your devices and prove a couple of points. So this is the same red barn that used to had horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. So again, keywords here would be delivery, milk, eggs, and anything relatable to a stable. So let's talk about spirit boxes, because there's 5 of them in play tonight. Spirit boxes, normally everybody wants to ask the same question whether they get a communication device like a Ouija board or a spirit box. What do you think that question is?
Did you hear something? What are you hearing? What are they saying?
Oh, that's me asking
Who
you
are
that.
Who are you?
Most people want to ask, is somebody here?
Oh.
Right? So if Lily hears no, that means somebody's here. Okay, so we are not going to be asking yes and no questions all night long. There's always a way to reword the question. So in a space like this, I would tell spirit box folks that have never used one before to ask a question you already know the answer to, like if somebody's here, tell me what color the big red barn is. However, I'm going to say looking and listening because obviously, I'm sorry, I'm losing your name, sweetheart.
Erica.
Erica. Let's say Erica's word list might give us, she's looking at it, she doesn't have to listen to it. But the rest of you are using song lyrics and DJs to convey messages back to us. And the word red might not be available for a direct answer. So, fire truck, blood, heart, those 3 things are specifically red. I would take that as an answer. What color is the big red barn? Blood. I'm good with that direct answer. However, throughout the night, I'm going to say that's a great start, but let's see if we can get a verifier. What do I mean by that? I want 2 things actually going on at the same time to be able to verify what's actually happening. Another example. Erica's word list gives us the word art. That doesn't mean anything over here. But then Kaya hears the number 40. That doesn't mean anything by itself either. But Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. Do you guys see where I'm going with this and how we're going to be putting clues together throughout the night? There's a lot of people from the 17 and 1800s with the same damn name. We need to know who we're talking to. So we need that kind of secondary verifier. You're going to hear me say verifier a lot tonight. I will be debunking a lot of things and withholding information on purpose. So again, I didn't tell you guys about Art Faircloth until we got over here, but if that were to actually occur, I can piece that together for you. I'm not going to say I'm Google for every location we have. Some spaces are like, yeah, I don't know, but I'm going to look at it in the morning because that's a weird phrase or word to be hearing at this location. So let's talk about the cameras. Let's kind of get those out of the way. So Rylan, you're going to try to do 2 things for us. You're going to try to keep one of us in view. The reason for that, guys, is because we're going to be the warmest thing out here, and when there's a person in view, it's much easier to find those cold spots. The other thing you're going to try to do is obviously not look like a YouTuber, but you're going to try to keep the sky out of view because the blue dot that's bouncing around, it's looking for surfaces to measure, and the sky doesn't have a surface. So again, some of those spaces are going to be impossible for you to do that. Just try your best. Nice slow movements out of it. The slower you are, the better it's going to be on as far as all of us watching it. And as far as your camera, again, slowest movement possible. I'll be looking to make sure your red dot in the front is blinking. That means you're recording. And then I'll kind of give you the cues for the stop. Your stop button is going to be on the right-hand side. It's the only circle button. It's the furthest button to the right.
Okay.
All right, so I think everybody kind of has a much better gist of what their devices do. I just want to make sure you're still blinking. Good deal. Has anybody heard anything on their spirit boxes before we move on between Lily and Kyle?
I have.
What have you got?
A couple things. I've heard stuff about Jesus, stretching,
Okay.
random weird stuff.
And no matter how silly you think it might be, it might actually be relatable to the space. So, for example,
something about auto something.
Okay.
Nothing right now.
Okay. So, but my point is, at this point, you're hearing things, which is good.
Yeah.
Again, no matter how silly you think it might be.
I heard B, and that was it. Oh, it's just the music and static.
And again, it's about the lyrics. So I don't care that you hear Harry Styles, because everybody wants to tell me they heard Harry Styles and what song he was singing. I don't care what song he was singing. I care what lyric he was singing at the time you heard it. So if you heard As It Was, I know that's the name of the song, but again, if that's what you heard, that's what I'm writing down, As It Was, because that's literally what you heard. Does that make sense to both of you?
Sure. Sponsored.
Sponsored is good too. So again, you're hearing things, which is awesome. And we're going to get you used to yours because it's going to be a little bit of like really getting used to it.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to show Mike more about his device at the next location. Erica, how's your word list coming?
I have good.
Okay.
Before that, I saw course, lemon, and prospect.
Yeah, I got nothing on that. Yours is mainly 80% garbage. Remember that.
Okay.
So
good.
Yeah. Of course. Mike, have you seen any numbers at all?
Nope.
Okay. So
I mean, it went up to like 0.2, 0.3, then right back down.
Yeah,
Nothing
up to
over 2.5.
1.1 is 1.1 is natural coming from the Earth. So again, that's why I say 2.5 and higher, because
Okay.
that would be Heather's second green dot. So that way I can kind of compare the two, and they're measuring in the same units of measure.
And Rylan has a question for you.
What you got?
So if I went in the big dot, I probably wouldn't be allowed to, and just kind of like look through this with the wall. Could I see like a cold dot as for like a wall?
It's a possibility. I'm not going to say that it could be there, but at the same token, I don't even know if it's still there anymore. I've seen it before they renovated it, and I don't drink, so I don't have any reason to go in there. So I went in there initially to have a meeting about my tours with the person I used to work for doing this, but now I own the company. But is that an answer? It's a possible thing that could happen, but I can't prove it one way or the other.
Okay.
But good question. Let's get away from ponies and football players and go learn much deeper history. What do you think?
All right.
Let's do it. We're going to go this way. Sounds like this is right up your guys' alley.
Very much. Very much.
And the nice thing about when they have, the earbuds is now you can take the other one when we kind of spread out.
Oh
and
yeah,
you
and
can
listen.
into
Oh,
it.
awesome. Yeah.
Kind of gets more people involved with
I have all these apps on my phones, but I think yours might just be slightly better. Might be the real deal. That's a fun bar up there, I can tell you that.
I just got screamed at.
It's not good.
Was it like
I scare you. You're a mama.
a group that can keep up with me. This is going to be awesome. So, welcome to your technical first spot. You're in a parking lot. Congratulations, you made it. Hoorah! Told you I was taking any weird spaces. First off, Spirit Boxes, we are going to be exploring the space after I give you the history of the location, but I am not going to be giving you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we did over there with the big red barn. You're going to get the answers from your Spirit Boxes. This is the first location where I will withhold information. So what is this place? Heather's looking around going, yeah, it's a parking lot. Pretty sure I've never been here. So this used to be the Eliza and Charles Pinckney Mansion. Their mansion actually sat in the front of this space. Yeah, I see the head nodding. So Eliza's garden used to be lined up with Five Church Restaurant and came all the way across, and we are standing in the servant and slave quarters for the home. So everybody kind of has a layout of the way it was set up. So who the heck were these people? Charles and Eliza had a son named Charles, and they had a nephew named Charles. The son and the nephew, by the way, that's 3 Charleses. That's why we look for secondary verifiers, right? So the son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. That's a pretty big deal for us. However, I hate politics more than all of you, so we're going to move on. But if I don't bring it up, it usually comes up somewhere in a spirit box. You'd think I'd leave it out purposely, but it's usually in anger. Like, hey, you forgot about the Constitution, kind of thing. So, yeah, it happens. Trust me. I'm here 7 nights a week. I know exactly how this is going to go. Now, with this location, Eliza, we're going to talk about her specifically. Eliza married Charles at a young age according to today's standards, not the colonial times that she came from. So Spirit Boxes, if you ask later on how old she was when she got married, you're not going to see or hear answers like 12 and 14. Okay, just think of more like today's standards. And the only reason I bring this up is because Charles, her husband, was over double her age. A little bit creepy then, back in the 1700s, it's just as much creepy now. Just so you guys know what those numbers might be. But she married him because her father, over in England, thought he was dying. And he wanted to see all of his children one last time. So he's trying to bring all of his kids home. She didn't think he was dying, so she stayed put and got married. It's 1744. You didn't get married in 1744 for a green card or for citizenship because you're a foreigner. You did it because of love. We're not even a country yet, so those aren't even real things. So, with that, her dad did get better. He started sending her gifts to the space of where we're standing right now. You guys have been in town for at least an hour or longer. You've seen the word indigo somewhere. One of those gifts happened to be the plant seeds of indigo. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. Some of you are wearing it tonight. So when she got these seeds, she didn't know what to do with them. She had to learn from her slaves how to keep it cultivated. It's not always hockey. Once she figured it out and experimented, she moves it to another plantation just south of here near the Stono River. Then she's able to call her father and say, rice plantations are going downhill. We can make a killing with this indigo. And we now have an international businesswoman during colonial times, which is something absolutely unheard of for a woman. So that's her business. That's the boring stuff. Let's get into the real weird stuff, which is why you guys are all here to begin with. I'm going to be assigning questions. So we're going to see how this is actually going to go. Lily, let me see who I want to start with. So I normally start with, let's see. Marty, you have a spirit box, and it only gives us normally 1 to 2 word answers. So I want you to start asking, once we spread out, what actually happened to the mansion. It's obviously not here anymore. If you get an answer, when did that happen? You might get the full date or just the year. We never know. So kind of stick to those 2 questions. As far as, let's see, I'll go with the children with Lily. So you can ask about her kids. I already told you there's one. His name was Charles.
Yeah.
There are more. You can ask how many and what their names were, but that's it. The reason why I'm telling her that's it is because there's a tragedy among those children. If we poke the bear, all activity will stop, and I haven't seen any EMF readings yet. Mike hasn't screamed out like, holy cow, and I haven't seen any colors on yours yet, but if we did, those would ultimately stop. So just stick to how many and what their names were, and kind of stick to that whole deal. Where are my other spirit boxes? You're going to see which Eliza were actually eyes, because Charles married 2 women named Eliza, back to back. The first wife died in January of 1744. The Eliza I just spoke of, he married her in May of the same year, so 5 months apart after his wife's death. Ironically, they both have a maiden name that starts with the letter L. To find out which Eliza we're dealing with, that's probably coming from your phone.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. And that's why I'm here to debunk things and not get everybody excited about a cell phone. But ask what their maiden names are and see if you actually get the answers.
Okay.
And as far as yours, yes, I'm going to give you a lot. So you get Eliza's death. You get to ask her how old she was when she died, what she died from, where she's buried, and what president was a pallbearer at her funeral. So you have 4 major questions that all relate to her death, and hopefully you'll get the answers. I'm going to keep her busy. Can you see why?
I guess so.
Yeah.
That's going to be a struggle for me, but I'll try. I'll try and remember
Just start
those.
with how old were you when you died, and we'll take it from there. So we are going to spread out in this area. I'm going to work with Mike first to show him more about his device. We have about 7 or 8 cars in this lot, so kind of keep in mind, those of you with cameras, we don't go in between vehicles, and obviously we don't film vehicles for too long. If people are passing by, you are nonchalantly not filming them. So just kind of keep that in mind as well, Rylan. So you're the shortest one. It's going to be much easier to hide. But everybody else, let's spread out. Let's get the spirit boxes cranked up. Mike, you need to stick with me so I can show you more. But Marty, definitely get yours unmuted so that way you can actually hear it. All right, so it's unfortunate that you haven't seen any readings yet.
Huh?
I
don't know, it's so hard.
I could see stuff, but it's just like,
know there's a lot of doubt with her as a woman. I read the whole book about Eliza. And so how she started the plantation, crop was dying.
I've asked how many kids and how old. What are you doing?
I'm just filming. Maybe ask a question.
How many kids did you have? Really loud.
All right, so what are you hearing out of that thing?
I mean, it's really loud. I thought I heard 4 or 9, possibly.
And you have the children's question? There were 4. So at this point, you want to start seeing what names you can get out.
Yeah.
So you're on the right
I
track.
read the whole book, Indigo Girl. It's a very fascinating story about
I
it.
actually have it. I have probably 8 books just
Oh,
on Eliza.
really? I
So
just happened. I
actually
read a lot of
just
stuff.
picked up Charleston and the Age of the Pinckneys. So
Oh,
it
is that a
gives
good
you
one?
basically the whole family. So
Okay.
like I'm kind
Let's
of like
start that
I'm
one.
using it as a resource, like going back
Yeah,
and
yeah.
forth because it jumps. It's not a
Yeah.
timeline, unfortunately. But again, I read so much on the damn Pinckneys. Like my
Yeah.
library is mainly Charleston stuff now.
Yeah. I just
So-
go all over. A lot of historical, not historical fiction.
And Indigo Girl's in my library. I just haven't read it
it's
yet.
really good.
Is
Like
it?
everything you're talking about, the story and how the crop, and then just everything. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, I seen you nodding your head.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I read it. Then you're talking, I was like, oh yeah, I just read a whole
Yep,
thing about that.
exactly what it is there.
Yeah.
So, and what's funny is none of the other tours come here because there's nothing to see.
Yeah, we walked through here one. I don't remember, but
Yeah.
that's why I was like, why are
I
we
think
here?
Bulldog actually starts one of their tours
Yeah,
over
because
here.
we've
but-
done a couple full hours.
and I don't think they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I didn't know this was this was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting. Keep going. Actually, pop one of the other earbuds in so you can
I
listen in
know,
with
I
her.
should. Yeah. I need some of the fun.
Yeah. That's
Eliza, what were your children's names? Eliza, what were your children's names? You had 4 children.
You're Johnny, Jake, Riley, Johnny, Riley. Eliza, you had 4 children. What were their names?
I know how hard it was with you with the indigo crop, keeping it from failing, and running the plantation.
Give us a loud, clear name, please. Hold on. So when I heard before, it was like super quiet. Like it was really quiet. It wasn't like a part of the song. It was a
In
quiet
between it.
little oop. That's when I thought I heard Johnny, I think. I don't know. It's weird.
Eliza, what were your children's names?
Yeah. It's really loud.
Yeah, that's weird. She hasn't given you anything else, has she?
What?
She hasn't given you anything else.
Eliza, you had 4 children. What were their names? Eliza, what was one of your children's names?
Ask her what her son's name was.
What?
Ask her what her son's name was.
Eliza, what was your son's name? I don't know. It's just, you heard it. It was insane. Should we go back over there?
Yeah, no, I never really heard anything.
What was your daughter's name?
I wish she had a son, but I don't remember. I read the book like years ago, a couple years ago, a year ago.
Brooke? I heard really loud piano music. I heard really loud Italian music. And it's like, it's scary because it like spurts up.
She like didn't have friends. Oh, I'm just thinking about the book.
Just heard a car crash. Like it literally sounded like a car
I
crashing.
saw that go off.
Like it sounded like a car crash. Eliza, how laughing? What?
Oh, Nick, he's trying to get your attention. His lights are going off.
Eliza. Eliza, are you doing that? I heard like it was like a radio or something that said I've never met that person in my life.
Interesting.
I asked if she was doing that. I heard Lizzo.
Say Charles. Who's Charles?
Huh?
Who's Charles? Is Charles your son? What are your kids' names besides Charles? Should have fight off the Indians.
Alright, Lily, you got anything coming up on yours now?
I thought I heard the name Johnny at one point.
Johnny.
I'm not
Brooke or
sure.
something? I couldn't hear anything.
Brooke, and then I asked
Old lady ears.
if she was making his device go off, and it said I've never met that person in my life. That's what came
But
through.
you also asked a yes or no question.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
So
did.
try to get something a little bit more specific. Tell me who's making that device go off.
Hey,
Okay.
Nick,
Yes. Another one?
29.6.
Good Lord.
God, I'm not supposed to do that.
You should know better. It's hard when you have to. It's hard when you have to really do it. One thing when you watch it, how do we not know?
I know. Who's making that device go off? I hear like little quiet things, but it's still quiet, but it's like hard to hear.
Yeah.
Eliza, what are your children's names? Mike?
Michael, Mike.
Really loud.
I read the book so long ago.
Kids. I'm just listening to what the music says.
Yeah. That's what he said to do.
Eliza, what were your
That's
children's
why we're
names?
asking a lot about her death. Alright, Marty, you got anything coming up? Where were we?
Dragon. I mean, it's really just random
Yeah.
music. It's so hard.
How come on TV it's so clear?
Huh?
How come on TV it's so clear? Through the Oculus.
Who is making people's devices go off?
Another minute. Like, pull this all together. So, you gave up on listening?
Oh, I did.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
was
hear
wondering.
anything. Just like
It's
quiet music and
just-
like really loud.
yeah.
This is
I'm
my
like,
first cup of coffee. That's what I'm doing. Is spot checking the S
yeah, it's hard to.
Very difficult.
This time over here.
It's literally the loudest.
Eliza, you're not telling us your children's names. This is my daughter Lily. She wants to know who your children's names are.
Let's get everybody to the back. Let me tell you guys what's actually going on around here.
It's music.
We're gonna go back to the back.
Really quiet and really loud.
Yeah, really quiet and really loud. It's a good song though. God, I'm gonna be alive. Let's go by.
Alright, those of you with video, go ahead and stop your videos, give your hands up. That's going to mute yours, Marty, because we're in a quiet area. Any names that were heard along the way?
John and Charles.
John and
I
Charles.
heard John.
John.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is John.
That's weird.
It's like really quiet too. Like
You
there's
heard
some-
Jesus and something else,
That
right?
was way back
Oh.
there.
My name is John. Charles. John again. What else do we
Really
have?
quiet.
I have close, soldiers, clean, often, listen, for, listen.
Listen came up twice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Normally when something pops up twice anywhere, especially when you guys both put names on different spirit boxes, it's usually like a focal point. Normally I have to pay from that. But the John is obviously very easy because I already know what that one actually means. So, welcome to Lodge Allen. What is this space? When we crossed the last crosswalk coming down East Bay Street, where we kind of waited there for a minute, that's where the original Charlestown Wall used to be. So what you're standing on is one of the first streets that Charlestown actually had. So Charleston used to be called Charlestown, the walled city. So again, we're in the original fortification of those walls. The reason I asked you all for names is because people used to live on this street. So it's not a big, lengthy word list of names that I actually have, but I do have the full list of residents of every single person that's ever lived here. The names I commonly hear are Benjamin and John. So here's what's weird about those two names. I normally only hear them on the same night every 6 to 7 weeks. So here's the reason why. First off, I want to tell you that both Benjamin and John lived here in 1801. If we're ever confused about which John, because there were 4 different Johns that lived down here, this John will give us his last name, which is Johnson. Yes, his name was John Johnson. I know it's funny, but it's obviously very relevant because I hear the same names. Now, basically what we're dealing with here is what we call the stone tape theory. You're standing on Belgian blocks. These are made of granite. Now, you guys have heard the term limestone because you all seem like you've seen some kind of paranormal show in your past, right? So, limestone is actually said to stir up any kind of paranormal activity because it comes straight from the earth. Granite also comes straight from the earth, but is not supposed to hold any type of electromagnetic field whatsoever. Limestone does. So, Mike, I'm going to actually ask you to put your device in the shape that it's in on a brick. Choose whichever brick you want. I want to see if we get any kind of readings out of it higher than 1.1. So because 1.1 is about average, looks like we actually are seeing it grow, which is very interesting. So at times, this device will actually go all the way to 11.7 on a device that's not supposed to give us any readings whatsoever. Your device is giving us about an average of 15. Choose a different brick because that seems to be pretty steady. Yours is now hovering around 2.2, so you're still getting about a 15, which is odd. Love how we're just scraping all the devices across the bricks. Yeah, no. This is what we do, folks. Like, this is how we test things out. Is it giving you the same reading everywhere? 1, 2, okay, perfect. So we had a little bit of a different reading. I am going to leave that on the ground for just a moment. But basically, because these bricks have been here for hundreds of years, the theory behind this is that they've been hanging on to the consciousness of memories, and they're replaying it back, and we're able to capture it on electronic devices like what you guys are all holding. So, do I have a specific anything about Benjamin and John other than the fact that they lived here in 1801? No, I don't. I just get the same names every 6 to 7 weeks. You're going to get a reading from the building because there's electrical wiring in there. But I love the fact that you're testing it. So, still on 2.2? Alright, we can go ahead and pick that up. I don't think we're going to get anything else out of it. Before people lived here, the Freemasons actually had a Masonic lodge here, hence the name Lodge Alley. So, we do get terms wrapped around the Freemasons. So, obviously the word Freemason, Mason, Brick, and the term Illuminati loves to show up on the 2 red spirit boxes that we have out. Now, yeah, first off, who the hell's talking about the Illuminati on the radio? That's my first question. Second, why am I only hearing it while we're in this space? So take that for what it's worth. It showed up 6 times last year, and so far this year we've already had it 3 times verified. So somebody heard it in real time, and they chuckle every time because I just mentioned the Freemasons, or they heard it on their way in. So, and then I go back and verify on the recording, so to kind of see if it's actually there. So 6 times last year alone it came up. Again, super weird. Now, this space, I do linger here for just a few minutes because, again, this is residual. It's just happening over and over and over again. The next space we're going to go to is another alley. However, I cannot take you all the way through that alley because I've been booted out. You guys have all the blinky lights and noisemakers and that kind of thing, and we're going to Philadelphia Alley where you guys read about the Whistling Doctor. But me talking about that story over there is going to stir up some activity, and we're going to stay relatively close to that location the rest of the night, which means the spirit boxes are going to have relative terms to that story the rest of the evening. So it happens all the time because it does bleed over quite a bit, and it is a very active, intelligent spirit over there as well. So again, I get a lot of, you're going to see how many keywords actually pop up out of this. So here's what's going to happen from here. As we exit the alley, both cameras are going to stop as we exit because we're cutting through a neighborhood to be able to get to the next space. We don't record in residential areas. So Ron, just make sure you hit the stop button when we exit. I will tell you 2 nights ago, here's the funny thing, and this might actually be relevant for you. We leave the alley, and one of my guests comes running up to me and said, hey, who is that guy at the end? Just standing there leaning against the wall. I'm I didn't see any guy. And I had a full group, just like this. There's 8 or 9 people. And some other lady said, yeah, I saw that guy too, but nobody else did. The funny thing is I was missing some of the footage from that night from the cameras to be able to verify. So that camera person using your camera, Katie, actually shut it off here at this location, so we missed it at the end, and everybody was kind of bombarding the edge, trying to follow me So I didn't see any cold spots because there was too much body heat going on. The funny thing about the other person that said, yeah, I saw that person too wearing the white shirt, was my only skeptic on the tour. So take that for what it's worth. When somebody comes up to me and somebody says, oh, I felt this, or I got pushed, or whatever, I have to take that at face value. When somebody else comes back to verify that, like I saw the same thing that you just saw, like I was wondering who that guy was too, yeah, something was going on there. But yeah, let's head up to the next alley. Yes, sir.
Well, me and my dad, we both said we kind of felt like a weird, like, shiver kind of thing. Back in the parking lot.
Back at Pink.
Like, I randomly, like, shivered out of nowhere and then stopped.
You know, what's funny is I felt, and I normally don't put my feelings into things. In Philadelphia Alley last night, I had a cold spot just come across my left arm, and I had the thermal imaging person keep the camera focused on me for the rest of our time there. It did see a little bit of a temperature drop, but nothing significant where I could say it was paranormal. So it might have just been some kind of breeze coming or something. So, but yeah, good spot. Good deal. That's when you guys gotta tell me that stuff. Let's go to the next alley. Barry said, yeah, let's do that. How far away did you get Giant?
Giant when I get down.
Just there.
And I got top. Oh, and it says instant, so I can pick it up.
Have you seen anything shook on your camera?
No, not yet. Nothing obvious, anyway.
It's like the smell of the horse pee, which is the craziest thing on the streets.
Stinky.
And obviously, Katie, you got yours perfect. Nice. So one of the reasons why we went with the all-black model, so that way we can use it inconspicuously. And of course, you can take tons and tons of pictures just by standing there. It was funny, you guys were by height, and then you two kind of messed it all up. It kind of went straight up.
Sorry, I'll
You're
shrink.
fine. It's just funny that I looked at it that way. My eyes are going whoop. But behind me is Philadelphia Alley. Remember, it's easy to remember that name because that's where Eliza's buried, is in Philadelphia, right? Not the actual city, not the alley. But it used to be called Jeweller's Alley. So, yeah, you see, you guys have all read this story.
She heard
right?
gunshot right when we walked
You heard
up.
gunshot?
And I said,
Yeah.
that's Dueling Alley, Lily. She's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So remind me to write that one down. I want to kind of get through all the keywords here. So we all tell the story of one specific duel because it actually occurred. I'm going to tell you the story a little bit differently because you are ghost hunting. You're not just listening around a campfire ghost story, right? So a doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves down here because his fiancée Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. Now, she has an attorney that's helping her out with all of this cash. The attorney thinks that the doctor is just after Amanda's money, so he tells Amanda to get rid of the doctor. The doctor, to prove that he's not just after her cash, he decides he's going to move to Charleston and start his new medical practice down here. So as he's coming into town, the coachman set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a very good start to his day in Charleston, but somebody walking by named Ralph Isaacs. I'm going to stop on Ralph for a second. Ralph has the same initials as where the doctor came from. R.I. shows up here all the time. Ralph Isaacs, Rhode Island. I just gave you the two main characters. We always need to verify our clues so that way we know who it actually belongs to. So, but Ralph tells the doctor, dude, you don't want to stay here. He's got a gunman inside. He's going to try to kill you. But I got some friends at 59 Church Street. You can stay there, and you'll be safe and good to go. The doctor takes him up on the offer, and they become friends. So, the doctor's practice starts to take off, which means he's making his own money, and Amanda's coming down soon. I know, it's still boring stuff. You gotta wake up a little bit. I'm going to pick on her the whole night, just so you know. I know, right? So, but the doctor becomes known as the whistling doctor because he whistled all the time. It's the late 1700s. Yes, that was the thing. So, I know, right? But I will tell you that every haunted city you go to will probably have a cliched whistling ghost wherever you go. Ours happens to be a doctor, and yes, I have proof of this one specifically. Now, with that said, him and Ralph go see plays together, but they can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. It's just the way the hierarchy works in Charleston. He gets better seats. They're talking about William III on their way home one night, about the new actress that was in town. The doctor thought she was fantastic, but Ralph, not so much. They start arguing, and it gets a little heated when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island. They go their separate ways, but Ralph, being from here, has friends at the newspaper, and he puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. The doctor sees the ad and rebuttals with, "Let's go to Dueler's Alley. We're going to settle this." So they come down, they take their 10 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend. He just wanted to have the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, which is often what happened at a duel, by the way. Ralph has his one shot. Sorry, you're the only male. Puts it in the knee shot, in the kneecap, on the doctor, so the doctor doesn't die right away. Sorry, I always have to kill somebody in this story. And it's always the person right in front of me. So the doctor drops to the ground, his friends pick him up, they carry him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. You gotta remember, this guy's a doctor. He probably tried to bleed it out himself. So we do get a lot of things around this location. What they normally will tell you down that alley is that if you're walking down, you can actually hear the whistles from the doctor. That's why they call it the whistling doctor. I used to take my tours all the way down through there, and we did have some whistling come through. If you're going to do that on your own while you're walking around town, turn on your voice recorders and check it out later. I want you to keep in mind that every local knows this story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street on the other side is going to throw a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night. When we stop up there, my garage is right there, which means I have to pass the alley, and if my daughter's on the tour, we race to see who's going to throw the whistle down the alley first. It's just something we do, especially since we've been booted out. So here's the fun part of being booted out of here. I get to tell you this part of the story. This is the fun part. So, I was looking at me like, really? Got booted out? So, this alley didn't come all the way through. It used to be where they kept all of the livestock for the city of Charlestown. It used to be called Cow Alley, which means those bricks on the other side, on the Queen Street side, are older than the bricks on this Cumberland Street side. Those bricks at the end are sun-dried bricks from slave children. There's a full handprint and fingerprint swipes in those bricks at the end of the alley. And I'd always talk about it as I'm taking my groups all the way through, but we have to keep moving. However, everybody wants to look at that brick and try to get some kind of activity out of it. From an EMF meter, a spirit box, and I treat that brick the same way I do a grave. You're not going to get a whole lot of activity out of it because the kid's not staring at the brick in the afterlife. Just disrespectful. So one night, November 26th of 2020, yes, very specific date, on purpose, my group decides they're going to huddle around that one brick and try to get some activity. I'm trying to hurry them along, and I will tell you that it was outside of a gentleman's dining room window of his beautiful mansion. He was not very happy with me at all. Come out, my daughter thought it was great because Dad's getting yelled at. She was on the tour that night. So we moved on. The next night was November 27th, Thanksgiving. I did not have a tour that night. I worked in retail for over 20 years. I'm sure you can all relate why I took Thanksgiving off for the first time in many years. The next day was November 28th. I got a phone call from the tourism office asking me to either go down halfway or to reroute my tour. We're allowed to go down halfway, but it's not fair for my 10 people to try to investigate a small space with 20 to 60 other people in there from other tours. So that's why we stay over here. I reroute my group, and we go talk about this female pirate that I didn't even believe in the ghost story of. Before we leave, somebody hears the name Anne on a spirit box. So I'm like, okay, I didn't tell y'all we're going to be investigating Anne Bonny, the famous female pirate. Let's go see what happens. I wing it, I tell them what I knew about Anne Bonny, and somebody else hears the number 300 come out of it. I'm like, out of another spirit box. I don't know what that means. As I'm going through the data the next day, Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was on November 28th of 1720. We were there November 28th, 2020, the exact 300-year anniversary of her pirate trial. So I keep taking folks back there night after night, which is where we're going next, that we're going to investigate. But we are going to be dealing with pirate lore. I can't tell you how many damn pirate books I've had to read since that actually occurred, and now I believe in the story because I have proof night after night. It's a hit or miss location. The worst case scenario is you're going to learn a hell of a lot about pirates as I kind of give you the things that I found common among many resources because we're dealing with lore, and I'm sure you realize I'm all about true history. So, have we heard or seen anything besides gunshot that I need to write down before we leave this space?
I got a lot of words in this day. Yeah.
Can I just take a look at your word list?
Yeah.
Let me write down.
So holy was the first thing that came out here.
Gunshot. So holy was the first thing here?
Yeah.
Did you hear the word gunshot or hear it? Oh, I think he doesn't know that. You gotta tell me. I thought you heard the word.
It's a loud bang or something.
And you heard it right when you walked in. That was crazy. I was like, really? Do you know where we're at?
Yeah, I don't see anything super like, oh my god, check this out.
Yeah.
Like, we
Yeah,
don't
I knew
have,
right when we
we
walked
said
up, I
church,
remember
and
it.
then,
Sure.
you know, Kaya heard the number 59. That was the address of where the doctor stayed. So I don't see anything that's like super specific, but expect a lot of religious terms out of your spirit boxes going forward because we're going to be getting close to St. Philip's. It happens all the time, just so you guys know. Anything else pop up out of your
She said
screen?
she heard the actual gunshot, not the word gunshot.
actual
I thought
gunshot.
she said the word
or a loud
gunshot.
bang or something.
Sounded like a
So
gunshot.
that was
Yeah.
a noise of gunshot.
Yeah, like right when we walked in.
The
What
funny
else?
thing is we will actually hear songs that have whistling in it as I'm telling the story. So like Moves Like Jagger has all that whistling in there. Guns N' Roses Patience will show up here all the time. It's just weird as I'm telling you the story of a whistling doctor, not actually down the alley, that we get songs with whistling in it. So it's not something I'm searching for, it just happens. So, but let's go learn about some crazy...
But I got a song, Late Night in the Middle of June.
What was it again?
Late Nights in the Middle of June.
You got the whole song?
No, just that
Just that one portion.
one portion of it.
Oh, it's the late night in the middle of June.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that is true.
What's today's date? Is it
21st.
21st, yeah. We can verify that's right.
I love it. I love the way you're thinking. I was wondering, Heather, I thought that was you over there taking pictures of the cat. That's Jack. I named him Jack, and we're going to see why. No, you're going to hear the story first. So, the cover keeper in check. He's very friendly, by the way. He'll wander around with us.
He's great.
I just was listening to that tour guide. It said something about the Circular Church owns a lot of the street cuts around here. There's some kind of myth and legend about the Circular Church and the way that it's built, so that never stays out of it. There's no corners kind of mentality. But we're going to be talking about this little tiny building over there with the crosses on it. So those are not crosses, so everybody knows. Those are earthquake bolts.
Oh my God, they're yelling.
Not yelling at us.
Yeah, they heard that was their names, Heather and Erica. We must know them. I heard people yelling our names.
I did hear Erica.
Yeah,
Did you?
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the people that you guys were parting ways with before. Interesting. So, earthquake bolts.
Yeah.
Earthquake bolts are basically turnbuckles. So if we have another earthquake like what I talked about at the beginning of the tour, there's somebody on the other side of the wall. I thought I heard a voice over there.
But isn't it closed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was like,
It's not open. Yeah, it's not open at night.
But basically the turnbuckles, after an earthquake, you can turn those turnbuckles and it's supposed to straighten the building back up again. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. Just so you know. Earthquake bolts are all over town. That's you rustling around.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What's
Really pissing me off.
Who the hell's in the ivy? Everybody run. George. I know, right? Oh, Calhoun. He haunts over here too. But the earthquake bolts, the reason that I bring these up is because those are the first set of earthquake bolts that Charlestown put in, because this is the oldest government building in South Carolina. It was finished in 1713, which is why we're here. So, yeah, the little tiny building over there, Heather. So, we're going to be getting close to it here shortly. But the reason why I bring this up is because this is kind of like what I call a familiar. I told you there was kind of a name for every location. This is like using a toy to attract a child to. We don't have many buildings this old, especially like where we're actually allowed to tour with you guys. But this would be kind of like a familiar place for Anne Bonny because of the age of it. So we also talked about the Charlestown Walls earlier. The garage over there, that's where the wall stood. It went up Cumberland Street and started going past the powder magazine, started going south towards the battery. Locks the gunpowder magazine into the corners of the fortified walls on purpose. If it gets attacked from a pirate ship or a warship, Revolutionary War, from the water 3 blocks away, first off, the cannonball's going to have a hard time making it up this far, but if it does and penetrates the walls, they're 32 inches thick. It's going to have a hard time getting through, but we're going to pretend that that cannonball goes all the way through and blows up the gunpowder. Underneath those red shingles you see is sand. It was put there during the construction of the early 1700s, and it's put there so that way it goes up in the air with the explosion of the gunpowder and then falls to put out the fire of the gunpowder. The sand is still there because sand does not disintegrate. However, that theory doesn't work either. We had another gunpowder closer to the battery. It did get attacked, sand in the air, building burned to the ground. So this one's just never been attacked, but it did serve in 7 different wars and 1 rebellion. So the number 7 will show up here from time to time too. But in the middle of this building's construction is where our story actually begins, so try to follow me, there's a lot of twists. 1708, a young lady named Anne Cormack moves here from Ireland. She's with her father and his mistress. The mistress is her mother. Is everybody with me so far? How that the 3 little trio work? Now the 3 of them are running away from Ireland to get here to run away from his wife. How angry was she? Just saying. So they land in Georgetown, just north of here, between her and Myrtle Beach. Dad buys a plantation, Mom dies pretty quickly, which means he has to send young Anne down here to Charlestown to sell anything from the plantation to keep things afloat. Well, back home in Ireland, by the way, Anne was kind of a badass. They say she actually killed one of her servants when she was only like 10 or 12 years old, so about your age, with a knife to the belly. So just kind of keep that mentality of this young lady as we're going through the rest of the story.
The child of the. Okay.
She was a child and she killed a servant.
Okay.
So, now, the building was done in 1713. We're fast forwarding. Pirates are coming through town in 1715. Anne gets stoked because she's going to fall in love. This is guy number 1. Yes, I'm going to keep tally. There was a handful. Guy number 1 turns out to be James Bonney. You can already see where this one's going because I've already mentioned Anne's full name. But Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. They run away to Jamaica. They get married. And Cormac becomes Anne Bonney, the famous female pirate. But when she gets down there, this is not Captain Jack Sparrow like she was hoping for. This guy's a privateer. He's basically a spy for the British. He's a coward in her eyes. So she falls in love again a few years later. This guy's name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. This is the actual person they based Captain Jack Sparrow, the character, off of, just so everybody knows. But Jack has his own ship, and Anne wants to be part of it. But you can't put a girl in the crew because girls are bad luck. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and hide your gender, then you can be part of the crew, but you're going to be a girl in my quarters. He's the captain. So she's okay with this because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy back home in Ireland to keep her away from his wife. So she's good with it. But most of us are adults here. Let's put 2 and 2 together. She eventually gets pregnant. You can't have a pregnant pirate guy on the crew. They're going to figure out that she's a girl. So he drops her off in Cuba. Go have the baby. Come back later. We'll figure it out. She goes and has the baby, but returns with no baby. We have no idea what happened to the child. She's also dressed like a female. She doesn't give a damn anymore about hiding her gender, and this makes Jack angry. While she was away giving birth to Jack's child, he captured another pirate crew, and they're down below deck. She's going to go flirting, because that's what Anne does. Guy number 3. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy, to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack captured. So, now we have 2 females doing the exact same thing. Her name is Mary Read. Mary Read and Anne become friends, possibly lovers, we'll never know for certain, and the British find out where they are. They send all of their ships to come take down one pirate ship. Anne and Mary are the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with their 1-bullet flintlocks, probably because they don't know how to use a cannon. So, obviously they're going to get taken. 2 ladies trying to defend one big giant ship. As they're being arrested, she looks at her captain and her bow and says, "You should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog." The word dog being very prominent on your spirit boxes. What do you have? You're smiling pretty big. You have what?
Urban. Or just LOLing.
Gotcha. So, with that said, the judge wants to see the 2 men that fought back so valiantly after he's already tried and hung Calico Jack and the drunken pirates that wouldn't come up. I know, the cat's going to take all my time. So the 2 ladies go in front of the judge. They reveal their gender. He doesn't care that they're female. They're pirates to him. He's still going to hang them. "We plead our bellies" was the last thing they said, meaning they're both claiming to be pregnant. You can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail, but Dad is still here in Charlestown with his Irish money. He bails out Anne, brings her back home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, but guy number 4, because we're going to count Mary Read, and has 4 children, dies at the age of 84. Yes, very abrupt ending. Now, as far as Mary Read goes, she died a year later in 1721 in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. So, as far as questions you guys can ask, it's an open forum, but I will tell you the 2 things that I can prove for certain, because everything else is basically up in pirate lore. The name of Calico Jack's ship, I left out of the story on purpose, and the name of Anne Bonney's parents, the father and his mistress. So, if you want to ask those 2 specific questions, you can do that, and hopefully you will get the answer. I will tell you, at the beginning of this tour, I kind of gave you that heated warning of people passing out on my tours. I'm going to take 1 more minute of your time before I spread everybody out to investigate the location and tell you why I gave that warning. Back in September of last year, I brought my group back here. Much cooler than this. We're very cool tonight, by the way. And the kid next to me goes white as a ghost. I have to literally pick him up by his armpits. His boyfriend picks him up from the other side. We get him over to the wall, bottle of water. He's feeling better. I then tell the story that I just told you about Anne Bonney. It's important to know that they don't know what you guys now know, but then I spread everybody out, but they pull me aside and say, "Nick, we have to tell you, we are 2 transgender males," meaning I had 2 females dressed as males, just like Anne and Mary in the story, on my tour, and it made complete sense as to why one of them passed out the minute we entered the space. These are the uncanny things that I see pretty much on a monthly basis. That is probably one of the most uncanny things, but again, it's why I give those warnings. Psychics and mediums normally don't make it through this tour. Just so you guys know, thinking mansion is a little too much. Yeah. As far as those of you with cameras, it looks like you guys made friends. Awesome. As far as the cameras, you guys can go in the front of the powder magazine to get some footage of the front line, but kind of keep out of the way of the other tours. If somebody's staying there telling their portion of the powder magazine story, just let them do their thing so you guys can go up and actually get some footage. Spirit boxes, a lot of crowd in this location. EMF meters. We're not going to see a whole lot. It's all about your REM pod, so that is the motion sensor. You definitely want to use it in here. But as far as your EMF readings, if you get anything, I want to know what's going on. If you do get anything, just make sure you're not in the corners of the lot up here, because the electrical poles will give you false positives, and or on the streets because of the parking meters. So kind of keep that in mind on both of your ends. But yeah, definitely hit that white button in the back. Let's get those spirit boxes running, and let's see what we can go find. I'm going to head up towards the wall.
I got a religious
Tell me about it.
What?
I heard music. I just heard like music. I heard Mayday, Mayday.
Oh.
Like way before.
So do you know what that is? It's like someone say Mayday, Mayday, like if they think.
What'd you get?
Yeah.
We get a lot of religious terms over here.
What?
I don't think I've
Cut
ever
is like really
I
soft.
don't know.
It's so soft.
But we get
I'm missing your kitty.
creature, that kind of thing. So I can't believe the same guy.
Oh my god, it's so cute.
I know.
I charge everything before I leave and double check it.
Parents' names?
What question should I be asking?
What was
Ew.
that mistress mom's name? The mistress's name?
And it's really hard to listen and hear to what he's
I
saying.
know,
at
and
the
I
same
was
time.
like listening and I got distracted. I don't
I don't know,
remember.
I'm just gonna listen to pirate stuff.
Yeah, I could ask her that. She had 4 more kids, again at 4.
Huh?
She had the 4 more kids. You're from Ireland, so you're Irish. So look at my Irish hair. See?
I keep hearing this say something. The can you think of me? The da-na-na. It's like the Britney Spears or something. I keep
Ah.
hearing the same song.
That's something, though. He said that. If you can
I keep hearing like the same songs like
Yeah.
repeating. It's like random songs too. She's so with the guy. It was really soft. Okay.
just tell her, like, you're red hair, you're Irish. I'm from Ireland. Say I'm from Quilty.
I cannot.
Fine. I'm gonna go in.
What children did you have? Oh, that was weird. I asked how many children did you have, and like a thing came through. I didn't know what to say. I guess it's like, oh, she's
Because we're like, we were sure it was not. And we don't know what happened.
that was Owen.
No, that was her, the pirate store.
Wait, are we allowed to
Yeah, he said we can do the front of it. Yes.
Wait, what's the lady's name?
Anne Cormac.
Mom, there's another.
Oh.
Shall we move?
Go ahead.
So this is the powder house.
I've never actually been in it. 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I think we should go in.
Hearing the same songs over and over again.
You know what they are?
The same music over and over again.
I know, I said, do you know what they are?
Oh my god, that was really loud.
What was it?
It was like loud.
So whatever the same songs are, listen, stop. Whatever the same songs are, you need to try to remember and tell him. Because the same ones keep coming over and over.
Is Britney Spears toxic? That's what keeps coming.
Because toxic.
I don't know.
Toxic
I just said
relationship.
that.
She was toxic. Anne's toxic.
It was, yeah, that's what keeps coming up.
Okay, you tell
I
him
actually
that.
really like that song. That's why I
You
was like,
tell him
ooh.
that.
Like, should I ask what happened to her baby? Like,
We're gonna poke a bear.
I know.
But you can try.
How many kids did she have?
4 plus the baby. She had the baby and then the
And
4.
how many kids did you have?
What happened in Cuba? What happened in Cuba?
And what happened in Cuba? I heard whether or not something is dead.
Oh, I just got chills.
But it was like just, it was like something or not Bronk is dead or something. I don't know. It's something random.
Because remember, they're not sure if the baby's dead or not.
Huh?
They're not sure if the baby's dead or not. Oh.
And what happened in Cuba? Can you tell me what happened in Cuba? disguise on the pirate ship as a man or a woman?
Alright, I'm gonna start following up with the other teams here. Alright, Lily, what do you got?
Sorry, I had the headphones in.
That's okay. What do you got?
The only thing that kept repeating was Britney Spears' Toxic. That
Song.
song just kept repeating, like, over and over and
basically,
over.
she says toxic a million
That's
times
what I
in that song, too.
But
Yeah.
otherwise, I
And then
really
you
got-
said, what'd you say? Like, what
When
happened?
we first got here, I heard Mayday, Mayday.
It's funny, is somebody else heard that a few weeks ago?
Oh, really? Which makes sense because of that, maybe? Like, mayday, mayday.
But this has never been attacked.
Oh. Yeah, that's true. It hasn't.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything
But that's
else.
very, like,
And then
the
she
fact
asked-
you said Mayday, Mayday twice,
Yeah.
like, is very specific because that's exactly what happened a few weeks ago.
Really? It's creepy.
And then she said what happened in Cuba, and it said something like whether or not dead or something.
Again, there's no
Yeah.
proof. of
No
that,
proof,
that-
but-
Yeah.
whether or not dead.
Something, right? Whether or
Yeah,
not
it
dead
was
or
something whether or not something is dead.
is dead. Yeah.
Nice. All right, keep listening. We're gonna give it a few more minutes.
I got Jack and Charles again.
So, you want to know why you heard Charles?
Why did I hear Charles?
Because Charles Pinckney is buried across the street. Eliza's husband and her nephew are both across the street at St. Philip Cemetery. We normally will get something relating to either him or his wife because it's almost like he's talking about her. We'll get the year of her death, we'll get her name, we get all kinds of weird things, and it doesn't make sense because she's buried in Philadelphia. So, again, I don't normally keep going on this until you guys hear something. So, but Jack is obviously obvious to Calico Jack.
Yeah.
Right. But hopefully we have something else wrapped around Calico Jack. But Charles would definitely be a Pinckney. But I'll see if there's
And
another
he's on
people
that
here.
side, right? Because you have to be on that side, and this side's the non.
Right. You have to be resident
On that
like
side.
a native.
Yeah. Because somebody's husband or somebody's on this side or something because.
Yeah, Calhoun is over here. And we get a lot of things around him in March because he was born in March and died in March. So when I bring my team over here, they'll come up to me and say, I just heard 7. He was the 7th vice president. You know what I mean? I'll hear weird things about him. Just his, a political party, those kind of things will start to pop up. They happen all the time.
Huh.
That's cool.
But yeah, and the fact that I'm getting, because Charles, if we get something about Eliza over here, it's just uncanny to me. It's almost like he's telling me, like, hey, Eliza's husband's sitting right here.
Like, what about me?
Yeah, but he's like still telling me things about
I said,
Eliza.
use your Irish roots here to. We're Irish. Get her talking. I know, you just want the cat. And I think the cat's name is Charlie.
Maybe he said that.
Can I ask anything else?
God, I mean, it's like this song and then random just like really loud static. Like, oh, ew, I just feel like I got water on my shoe. That's gross.
Water pirates.
Huh? I cannot hear you. It's so loud.
Hey, little porta potty.
That is like staring off into that like really creepily. What is the color of the cat by that porta potty?
They don't know where to porta potty
Yeah, she went through a lot. And then when she was a kid.
is. Where are you from in Ireland?
We don't know that.
I know, but did you get a song? We know Ireland.
On the pirate ship, what were you disguised as? I heard Jack is dead.
Oh, okay. Tell him that.
Okay, that's not what I asked him.
Still.
What were you disguised as on the pirate ship? Bullets. I heard bullets. And it was in the song, it was one word.
Yeah.
The cat's gone.
Remember he was talking about the bullets on the boat. How the 2 women were the only ones. Oh.
What gender were you disguised as on the pirate ship?
Alright, let's pull it over to the wall, guys. Let's see if we can actually get going.
I heard God and him Holy singing.
He said you heard. Oh.
It's like, oh, like, it was really like opera.
You know, right when you did that, I was facing the church. I was. Oh, that's weird. Weird. She heard some more. She heard more stuff.
Wait, where are we
Oh,
going?
I'm sorry.
What'd you hear?
Oh, I heard Jack is dead, and then the word bullets.
And then right when I put the camera at the church and was filming it, she started hearing God, and
I
then
heard the word
I heard
God,
a lot of Jesus.
and I heard like
church
holy
music.
singing. Yeah.
Right when I was like
Opera.
filming the church.
It was really weird.
That was weird.
Well, that's common over here.
Yeah.
Well, you
Just
said
be-
earlier, I heard you say something
yeah.
about God and Jesus a
Yeah,
lot.
so a lot
Yeah.
of like religious terms. The minute we start rounding that corner,
Yeah,
going
it was, like,
Philadelphia
right
alley,
when-
lots of religious
Yeah, I was
terms.
like right over there and I heard Jesus
Yeah.
4 times.
So I'm looking at this 341 and 143 that was heard, and I'm kind of looking at it as a date. So like maybe March 14th, like 14, like 143. So I'm gonna see if
I
I
heard
know.
like 143 and then it was like 341. I don't know what was being
But I
said.
want
It
to
was
say
just, like,
Anne
repeated.
Bonny's death. No, her birthday is March 8th, but she died on April 22nd. So again, I'm trying to see where there might be a tie, but I definitely, you heard Jack, and you also heard Jack is dead, Lily. So that's very specific.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not really seeing much. Mayday, Mayday. That's another weird thing that was heard, and that was actually heard here a few weeks ago as well. I tried diving into it to see if something specific was in May.
I heard tragedy at one
Tragedy.
point. Yeah.
I have new words. I have deal, different, and constitution.
Oh.
Who heard
I-
Charles?
And now I have contest.
Well, contest we get a lot because of Philadelphia Alley, because again, they were dueling over there. But I want to go back to the Charles for a second. You heard the name Charles. I told you he's buried across the street. The nephew that signed the Constitution is also buried over there. So if we get the word promise that shows up somewhere as well, that's the pig of the Constitution. So again, these are terms that I look for all the time. I'm not saying I'm like, oh my God, I heard the word promise, and I'm seeking it out. But when it occurs, it's the same locations when I'm going through this data every single time. I don't know what's going to pop up, but again, this way you guys keep me around. You have contest, we have bullet, right? So bullet contest, you know, it's almost like a phrase that we're getting. We just have to see if there's more when we're going through the data. What I'm telling you now is, like, in real time, we get about 40% of the actual evidence. The other 60% comes through the review of the media, which is why I give it all back to you. So again, this was actually a pretty decent space. You had no numbers or colors at all show up, correct?
Yeah, it was quiet.
Yeah, and then of course yours is staying steady right now. I will tell you, like, this camera that died got a fresh battery and is normally about 3/4. So unless you took 3,000 photos tonight, there's no reason that this thing should have died. Everything comes off of a fresh charger every single day, or it gets a fresh 9-volt battery depending on what your device is. But again, there was no reason for this guy to die, but you said you had a thing with electronics dying on you all the time. Could have been you that kind of made that happen. Not pinning a blame, but it was definitely abnormal for this thing to die. So I'm going to start collecting devices. Those of you with videos, you can definitely start.